So, what we're going to do tonight, we have, again, what we're calling our business partners here tonight. We're going to introduce them, and we're going to just briefly go over the process that we're going to use this semester, partly for your benefit, partly for the benefit of our guests, because it's important that everybody be on the same page with what we're trying to do this semester. Then we're going to have the presentations from each of the four business partners, and we're going to split it up 50-50. We want to have some active discussion between you and them. They're going to describe the business that they're undertaking and why and what problem they're solving, that sort of thing. And for 15 minutes, and then we're going to have a give and take discussion. And feel free to ask anything you want to ask about the business because you need to have an understanding of it so that you can make your selection. You're going to be referring to the worksheet and filling it out as you listen to each of these presentations. Let's see. So after all the four presentations are done, I want you to edit these worksheets, and this is for your benefit. You're not going to turn these in. This is just so that as we get to the end of the presentations next week, you have a rational basis for saying, this is the first choice business I want to work with, this is the second choice, this is the third choice, right? And so I want you to think it through and have a rational basis for making that selection. Again, just for everybody's benefit, students have seen this already, but the flow of the course, okay? We had a module where we're just doing an intro and overview like every course. This module, which is module 2, we call community discovery. And this is where the students get familiar with the community they're working with and get familiar with the entrepreneur that they're working with. And so this is a very important, this week and next week, very important from the standpoint of getting to know these entrepreneurs and selecting which business venture you want to work with. And then the third module of the course is what we call the business development process. So this is the how. This is once you have decided, once the students have decided what business they're going to work with, we have to put in place the methodology by which we're going to do this work. And it's mainly something called the customer development process that we're putting in place and working with this semester. Then we have a one-session segment on competitive strategy. How can we, once we have a business model, how can we position that business in the best way to compete with all the other forces that are out there in the marketplace? And finally, we have a segment on presentation and execution. And we do, I think, 3 class sessions on that, where we're working toward these final presentations that the students are doing on December 11th. So that's kind of the flow of the course. There's 14 weeks in the class, in the course, and we are on week 3. Week 3, session 4, because we count the tour of Detroit as a session. So they get to skip a session in October because we had an extra one last Saturday. So what are we trying to do? What kind of businesses are we trying to create with you all, with our business partners? We want businesses that effectively address an important community need. This course is urban entrepreneurship, and the idea of urban entrepreneurship isn't just to have a business that's located in an urban community, it's to have a business that serves an urban community in some way. And so we're designing businesses that effectively address a need. They're sustainable. In other words, they're not a short-term business. They persist over time. They're profitable. That's one of the key things, because the business is not going to exist over time. It's not going to be sustainable if it's not profitable. We want these businesses to be scalable. Even if they're starting as one business, one location now, we want to design them in such a way that they can grow to address more customers and even more communities. And we want these businesses to be novel in some way. We want to use new knowledge, new technology to yield a significant competitive advantage. So I guess the quick analogy would be, we don't just want to make a taxi company, we want to make Uber, right? And so that's kind of the aim. We want to apply real creativity around the community need that the businesses are serving. So this diagram kind of shows how we're going to go about operating this semester and how we're going to, where we need to interact with the business partners. So the first step in this process of creating an urban-focused business is to select the community you want to work in. So the students are inherently selecting the community you want to work in by selecting what entrepreneur they want to work with. You're performing that function. And when we say the community, we're not just talking about Detroit or Flint. We're talking about the subset of the community that they're going to be working with. And so you're going to define that. The businesses are going to define that because you're working with a particular segment of the community. We also need you to help the students engage the community. When we first started this course back in 2015, the students had to go out into the community and find people themselves and come up with a business idea and go talk to people, and that didn't work. I mean, it worked okay, they learned a lot, but it wasn't as effective as it could have been, because how can you in just a few weeks become familiar with a community that you haven't lived in, right? Haven't been immersed in. And so we're using the business partners for that immersion and for that connection to the community. And so we want to have you, for example, if you have a particular problem that you're solving, the students are going to come to you and say, well, who experiences that problem? And you're going to say, these people. And they're going to say, well, connect me with some of those people. Let me talk to some of those people, right? And so we're relying on you to help make that connection for us. That's what's going to make the course effective. And so we start out by identifying the problem that your business is attempting to solve for the community, or what need is your business fulfilling. And the students need to understand that, document that, validate that, and that's where this whole design process starts. So once they have identified the solution of the problem that your business is aiming to solve, they go through a process of generating a solution or a series of solutions that they then choose, the best solution from, and that's a design thinking process. And then they express that solution in the form of a business model, a design of a business that implements that solution. And so we'll talk more about what that design looks like in a minute. And then they have to go out and validate that design, because it's one thing to design something, but then how do you know that design is actually going to work in the community? Well, again, they're going to be coming back to you and saying, okay, I need to validate the value proposition of this business, or I need to validate that people will pay X amount for Afro-Caribbean food because you said that you need to make a certain amount of money. So you're going to have to connect them with people where they can validate that sort of thing. So once that business model is validated, then the last thing they're going to do, the students are going to do, is to write up an executive summary, the first steps toward the execution of the business. Obviously, in 14 weeks, we aren't going to execute the business, but we can talk about what are the next steps that would need to be undertaken to execute the business. So what we refer to as a business model is captured in something we call the business model canvas, and it has 9 elements. And the first thing is the value proposition is to what do you do? What does this business do? And if you go all the way over to the right, who do you help or who do you serve with this business? Who are the customers, in other words? And then if you go just to the left of that, how do you interact? What are the relationships that you build with customers to make that business work and to make it sustain? And below that, how do you reach the customers, right? How do you get the product to them? Is it an online thing? Is it in person? Is it door to door? Then down at the bottom, how much will you make? How much does it cost? And then we have three other elements there. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What are the activities you have to execute to make this business work? Below that, what are the key resources? What do you need to make the business work? And finally, all the way to the left, who are your partners? Who's going to help you make this business work? What people or business entities are your partners in this business? So we're going to spend in the class, and when I talked about that process module, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the business model, creating the business model, validating the business model, and doing it in terms of your business. So hopefully for the business partners, this will be something that you find useful, that the students have created this business model and have gone out and validated it. So what the students are going to be doing, they're going to choose the business partner they're going to work with at the end of next week's session. They're going to document and validate the problem that you're aiming to solve. They're going to work with their teammates to come up with a solution to that problem. It may be the solution you have already come up with. It may be something different from that. It may be a modification of what you've come up with. Then they're going to validate the solution. They're going to generate this business model. That's the design of the business. And they're going to validate the business model. And then they're going to present that at the end of the semester to some reviewers drawn from the community. They have a pitch deck that gets produced about the business opportunity you're addressing that they present at the end. So the worksheet that they have tonight is something, again, that is just for their benefit. Students, it's for your benefit to resolve for yourself how you feel about these businesses. So there are 10 criteria there that we're looking for you to measure these businesses against. And so that's it. What are some of the problems you see possibly occurring with this whole setup? Nothing's perfect, right? What do you think might happen that could, in terms of this whole interaction between you and the business partners and putting this business together? Do you have any apprehensions, or can you spot any potential problems? Yes?
Lack of experience on our part.
Okay.
In some ways.
That's true. So, the students are learning. The point I want to make, that's a very good point. In fact, we're all learning, right? So you're learning, the business partners are learning, I'm learning, how to make this interaction work. Like I said last week, there's no fixed, it's not calculus, right? There's no fixed answers here. It's, we just dive in together and we try to make this work. And we're going to come up with challenging situations, but that's business startup, right? Other issues that you might see. I know you must see something. Tamara, what do you think?
Multiple people are the same business partner.
Okay, that's a good point. So we might have 34 people who want to work with the same business. I'm asking you to choose your first, second, and third choice, right? And so we're gonna make that work next week. Everybody is not gonna. Well, everyone may not get their first choice, but hopefully you will get a choice. Okay. Any other potential issues that you see? What about communication? What do you think about that?
I think it might be tough to keep communication kind of open between the business and students, and also just for the student side of things to all work together on the same page. Like scheduling, I think, would be the toughest thing.
Yes. So that is something that has been a difficulty in the past, and to different degrees for different teams. So you have a situation sometimes where the students are like, this guy, his business partner is not returning my call, right? I can't get the information, or they're not really supporting this thing. Or we'll have a situation where 3 out of the 5 people on the team are not going out and getting the information. 2 people are, right? So you have issues like that, and so it's important to, if you have a communications issue or a team issue, it's important to raise that issue, bring it up right away, so that we can jump in and help to resolve it, to give you the tools to resolve it, right? Any other concerns or issues about the process? So again, the only thing I can guarantee is that there's going to be a lot of give and take in this process, and it's not something that is unexpected, right? That is a part of early stage businesses, a part of business startups. I just relate one quick story about my own business experience. We had a lot of tumultuous stuff going on when I started my company years ago. And there was one particular day, we had 18 employees, 6 of them quit. And me and my co-founders thought that there was something wrong with us, as a result, and it may very well have been. But subsequent to that, I was reading a book about the founding of Microsoft Corporation, and I found that the exact same thing was going on at Microsoft, right? People were burnt out, people were not communicating, there were people issues are one of the biggest issues in startups. So again, the way we get through those things is to communicate with each other and to raise issues and hold each other accountable as we go through this process. So we're going to bring up our first